recent events in Europe mark a potential turning point for Greece. We now have large parliamentary majorities in both Greece itself as well as its major creditors approve the recently agreed deal, which sets in motion a third bailout for the country. There is certainly plenty of downside risks to Greece, but I think it's actually at this point in time also important to highlight that this deal possibly highlights the first time that there is significant upside for risk to the country, and that it actually might make it. First of all, in my opinion, this is a deal that is appropriately focused on structural reform of the Greek economy rather than very short-term fiscal targets. It is also a deal that has significant requirements put on the creditor nations in Europe for it to play. So when we look at it, surely the Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras in Greece has a very long list of so-called prior actions or reforms that he needs to implement before he gets any money. He took a big step forward just a few days ago, and there will be a lot of more things that he needs to convince his very skeptical party in Greece to back. But I believe he will have the support not only of a large part of his own party, but also of the Greek opposition parties. And therefore, even if it comes to new elections in Greece, his personal popularity with the Greek population will ensure that either this government or a government under his leadership will follow through on this commitment in the coming, say, 6 to 12 months. At the same time, it is clear that this deal puts significant onus on the European authorities to also deliver their side of the bargain. This was a deal that was agreed by the top European leaderships, knowing full well that the IMF would demand debt restructuring or further debt restructuring of euro area debt holdings in order for them also to participate further to financing Greece going forward. Nonetheless, the European leaders agreed to this deal, which means that, in my opinion, if we look at the language used in the agreement and the deadlines by the IMF, I think it is entirely, in fact, it should be the base case at this moment that the euro area will probably in the first quarter of 2016 agree to a substantial further debt relief for Greece that would involve very, very large grace periods where the government of Greece has to pay no interest or amortization of the debt, and very, very long maturities of this debt, so that in effect the majority of the Greek debt is kicked down the road by a generation or two. This is a very, very long period, and one will allow, in my opinion, the country to not only restart growth, subject to good domestic reform implementation by the Greek government, but also it will allow them to re-enter private financial markets so that it essentially becomes, probably within the duration of the new program, which is 3 years, once again a fully sovereign country, both in an economic and political sense. So we shouldn't make any mistakes. This is a potential turning point for Greece. It has significant potholes ahead for the current Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Tsipras, but I believe he will remain Prime Minister and he will manage it. And then we also will see the full commitment, political commitment and economic commitment by the European authorities to grant Greece necessary new debt relief so that the Europeans can assure that the IMF is also on board in a co-financing role also in the future.